Welcome back from the break, guys. If you've just joined us, we are assisting you to prep for your final exam. If you're someone who's constantly running out of data, then this next competition is just for you. Wazometrics is bringing you the hashtag WazoWinner competition, where 2 lucky matriculants stand a chance to win 2 gigs of data. All you need to do to enter is head on over to our Facebook page and all of the details will be there.
Hi guys, welcome back. So now we're going to move on to a different section and a different question, and we're actually going to be looking at some data handling questions. Okay, so first, need a pen. Okay, we're going to, table 4 shows the number of households that have access to amenities or services in their houses. Some data has been omitted, so it's important to know that it's not a full table. Use the table to answer the questions. So remember earlier I said to you, analyze the table first. Okay, so we're looking at table 4, which is what they told me, the number of households with access to amenities for selected years. And then I've got 2001, 2007, 2011, and 2016. Now what we're looking at is the amenities or the services. Have they got flush toilets? Do they have tap water? Have they got electricity? And finally, our total households. So, and then the numbers that we have is your 5.8 million. So in 2001, 5.8 million people, or 53%, had access to flushed toilets. It then went up to 7.2 million, which is 58%. Finally, 2011, it's 8.7 million at 60%. And now we've got 10.7 million. So it's kind of going in the right direction. Still think these percentages are a bit low. Let's see, now that we've analyzed that, what kind of questions we have. So the first question is, determine H in the table. There are 2 learners provide the following calculation. So let's go back and see what H was. So H is the total households for 2007. Okay? And we want to know what that total is. So, and remember that you can't just add these up because some things have been left off. So our totals, we're going to look at our percentages. So actually I'm going to go back to this for a sec. So we're going to be looking at the percentages. So if, for example, I know that 10 million people was 80%, then I can use that calculation to get my total. So I'm going to look at the 2 calculations. So Ian did a calculation and got an answer of 12.5 million. I'm going to analyze his calculation in a second. Nao did a calculation and got 8 million. But now hold on a second. Remember I said to you that 10 million people had access to electricity. So now how then do we get an answer of 8 million? That's an answer that's actually less than electricity. So that cannot possibly be the total. And so in actual fact, for this calculation, or for this question, I don't really need to do any calculations because I can immediately see that it must be Ian that actually got this correct. What did Ian do? Ian took out 10 million represented 80%, and he wanted to know what 100% was. So he divided by 80%. Okay, so he said 10 million people was 80%, and he wanted to know how many, and I've left out the million, was 100%. And that's why he took out number times by 100 divided by 80. Okay, let's see what the next question says. There's our table again. The average expenditure on electricity per household was 125 Rand per month, and for tap water was 98 Rand per month. Calculate in millions. So when they tell you calculate in millions, you know that you don't have to write in all the zeros. You can actually give the answer in millions. The total was spent by all households on electricity and tap water in 2011. So we have 125 Rand per month for electricity. So I'm putting this as electricity. And then I've got my tap water. My tap water was 98 Rand per month. And I need to know how many households there was. So it's 2011. So let's go to our table. 2011 electricity was 12.2 12.2 million. Okay. So that's 12.2 million. So I'm going to times that by 12.2 million. And I'm going to do the same with the tap water. Let's just see what the tap water was. Tap water was 10.6 million. So I'm going to times this by 10.6. And I actually don't need to have the millions, but I do need to write in the word millions. That's important. And we want the total, so I'm going to do these calculations and add the 2. I don't think I'm going to do the calculations right now, because that's fairly simple calculation, but don't forget your words, the millions. Okay, let's see what our next question is. This graph below shows some of the data, the same data, for the number of households that have access to tap water. So we're looking at tap water, and we're looking at the different years, and we can see that it has gone up. Okay. I'm looking at the table, access to tap water, graph A and graph B, and it tells me our years. So I'm going to go back to our table. Basically what they've done is they've taken this portion of the table and they've drawn it into a graph. Okay. So they want to know, give one reason for the different lengths of the bars for each graph. And this is a really important tool to be able to use and to be able to interpret when you look at graphs. We need to look at them critically. So in our first graph, we've got a scale. It starts at 60% and goes up to 90%. So that's my scale of the graph. In the second graph, it's starting at 0 and going up to 120%. Okay? So my scale is different. So with this graph, because I'm missing the first part, I'm missing from 0, my bar is very small because this was just 62. I'm actually going to just erase that. So that number was 62. When I look at this number, it's still 62. Still reading it off here, it's still 62%. But the scale makes it very much different because where we started our graph. Okay? Our last bar, let's look at our last bar. It was just over 80. Let me see what that number was. It was 84% or 84.5%. So that's 84.5%, and so is that 84.5%. Just that the bar's different, but the bar's bigger here, because our scale was smaller and only starts at 60, and that's our space. So it's important that you critically interpret these graphs. It's really important that you understand what they mean. One of my favorite graphs, I'm going to quickly show you this now. One of my favorite graphs was a line graph, okay? And it was somebody who said, well, I had 3 tests. I'm going to draw a dotted line, okay? And this is percentage on this axis. And they said to their parents, look how well I've done in my tests. I'm improving. So I'm going up. I'm going from failing to passing. But then when you look at it critically, and I'm going to do this in a different color, when you look at it critically, that was test 1, that was test 2, and that was test 3. So can you see how misleading this information can be? Because the people look at it and they go, oh, that's a positive increase, we're going up. But in actual fact, if you had to do it correctly, where you would normally start with test 1 first, the graph would go the other way. It would actually go down. So important that you read very carefully. Okay. And finally, taking you to the end of this prep that we've had. Don't forget, read every question carefully. In fact, I'm going to say read the question carefully, do your calculation, reread the question. Check with yourself and ask yourself, hey self, have I actually answered the question? Have I answered what they're asking for? Have I rounded correctly? Okay. Have I added a unit? So don't forget, every question needs to be checked. So read carefully, answer, read again. Don't forget how important your beauty sleep is. Go to bed early the night before an exam. There gets to a point where you've done everything that you can do. You need to trust in yourself. You need to believe in your abilities. Eat an early lunch or breakfast before your exam. Not sure what time you're writing. Okay? And if you're feeling stressed at all, don't keep it in. You've got plenty of people that you can share it with. So find somebody to talk to if you're feeling stressed. And finally, I think you've got this, and good luck for the exam, and I'm going to hand you over to Luni.
Matrix, thank you so much for tuning in. It's been an amazing show. A big congratulations to all of our competition winners who will be announced after the show on our Facebook page. For more revision, go to our schedule on www.wazamatrix.co.za. From me, Luni, our sign language interpreters, and our awesome teacher, thank you and goodbye.